It's not my breath is strange to my wife. He'll say that later. It's not that I buried all 10 children in one day or even lost all my property. The worst thing is I feel like I've lost my best friend and I don't know why. I wish he'd tell me so we can reconcile. Now, one mistake that Job does make is he thinks that the loss of his stuff is proof that he's lost God, which says that Job buys into the retribution principle a little bit too, because Job's looking at his circumstances and saying, hey, listen, remember, this is how you always know. If I ever ask this on a test or something, this is how you know. How do you know if somebody's operating using the retribution principle? Proof that you live through the retribution principle alone. Mike said this earlier, the extreme, which is right. Proof that you and I operate on the retribution principle alone is when we use circumstances alone to define our standing with God. If you use circumstances alone, now circumstances matter, but if you use circumstances alone to define your standing with God, you are a slave to the retribution principle and you're mistaken. You'll mistake it about your relationship, other people's relationship. The retribution principle is true. Remember this phrase. If you forget everything else in the book of Job class here, remember this phrase. You reap what you sow, but you don't sow everything that you what?
Reap.
That's true. If you get that, you got Job. You reap what you sow. Yeah, that's true. Of course, that's true. God says that's true. You don't sow everything you reap. And there's a part of our hearts that's glad that's true, but there's another part of our hearts that's sad that that's true. I'm glad that's true because good has flowed into my life that I just don't deserve. What does David say when he finally ascends to the throne? It's in 2 Samuel 7 and also in 1 Chronicles. Who am I? What is my family that you brought me thus far? That's all of us. We look at our lives and we say, why us? We weren't the smartest, the best, the brightest, the fastest. We've done wickedness. We've done sin. How has God spared us to get to this point? We didn't reap everything we sowed. We know we didn't. And we thank God that that's true.
My grandmother used to say something that I never understood. And she said it, I'll preface it by saying when she said it to me. And I use this in a sermon, but I was referring to a gentleman that was on the side of the road and was homeless. And I said, I called him a bum.
Yeah.
Said this bum. And my grandmother said, there, but by the grace of God go I. And I never understood that until I got to a point later in my life, and if I get choked up, forgive me, where I turned my back on God and I was that guy. And it came to me, there, but by the grace of God go I.
It's not because we deserved it or earned it.
No.
We're one step away from being that guy. But I'm going to tell you something that makes us uncomfortable, Michael, and where we're like the friends. The American way is the retribution principle. Americans say, well, if you work hard enough, hey, he's only in this situation because of his choice. If you did this, if you worked hard enough, 1 + 1 = 2. And it's because we don't want to suffer. The Western mindset says, if you work hard, you go to the right schools, you do the right stuff, life's going to work out your way. And if we find anybody who's broken that mold, it's like, well, maybe you did something, or maybe it's your childhood, or maybe we got to find a reason, because surely people don't suffer for no reason.